The story begins in the year 2525. The world no longer has countries, now there's only one unified government called the UNSC. This helped humanity to put aside their difference and focus more in their expansion in the universe. Through this, it was that humanity expanded through many planets, managing to colonize them and make new human colonies far from Earth, until they met a group of various alien races who called themselves the Covenant, and they acted in a hostile manner towards humanity, since according to them, the humanity was a race that should be exterminated since they represented a danger to their religion. And thus this began a war that became known as the Human and Covenant War, that lasted 28 years. During these years, humanity lost a lot of territory, and each time humanity was more on the verge of extinction. Due to this, a scientist named Catherine Elizabeth Halsey created a program called Spartan 2, that consisted of creating super soldiers and used them to fight against the Covenant. The only problem is that the people chosen to be part of this program were children with certain types of gifts, or they were more developed than other children. In addition to these children being kidnapped to recruited by force, making this whole program a crime, and also many of those children were not going to pass the test, and that means they will die or be seriously injured. This was something that generated a lot of controversy. Of the 150 children that were investigated, 75 were chosen, and 35 were survived all the procedure. This created an entire Spartan squad. In the end, the Spartan program was a complete success, since thanks to the Spartans, humanity was able to fight against the Covenant and defeat them, ending the war. In addition, the Spartans were of a great moral support during the war, since the soldiers and civilians felt inspired by these soldiers and their capabilities, causing more people to enlist in the ranks of the UNSC to fight against the Covenant. But at the end of the war, these Spartans continued to be used but only as a killing machines and do the dirty works of the UNSC. In addition to when the Spartan program was revealed to the public, the part that says that they were child soldiers and all the murky facts regarding their stories was omitted. With this in context, we were interested in this topic since there was a lot of ethical debate about what was really the right thing to use child soldiers for the war, and also what happened at the end of this, since for a long time these children did not see themselves as more than a war machines. And then we would like to investigate and learn more about this aspect and understand if the events of the creation of the Spartans were really justified.
So now you can really see this topic in two ways, the emotional and the objective one. On the one hand, if we talk about the emotional part, it was an extremely cruel act because the children had no choice to do something about it and their parents were deceived. The question is that if we see it objectively and fully analyzing the context that humanity was going through, no matter how immoral it might be, in some way humanity was able to survive longer than had been thought, and that also thanks to that action many people were saved. Many people that were conquered were retaken, and there could have been a minimal balance, or that they could fight with the Covenant. Clearly, the creator of this story proposes many things that are too unreal, such as the fact that the world became only one nation, or also that from the moment that she took the children, they had already put her in jail, or that the children did not resist, among other things that are not the reality from our perspective. We believe that despite the circumstances and the things that happened, other decisions could have been made or something more logical. Now talking about the area of philosophy that we will use for this problem will be the area of ethics, since this area is responsible for categorizing actions or decisions about what is right or wrong, using human morality as basis to try to solve the problem in the most appropriate way, fair as possible. Besides, by using this area of philosophy, we have access to all the ramifications of ethics. For example, once we investigate more on the subject, we can relate our problems with meta-ethics or with normative ethics, etc. Once we choose the branch that best suits our problem to reach a conclusion, we can ask ourselves questions that will help us reach out a final answer. These questions can address the issue from different perspectives or contexts. For example, it is really right to judge Dr. Halsey as a criminal even if her actions ensured the survival and the victory of humanity? Another question could be, The circumstances lived within the Halo universe were the necessary ones to put aside morality and commit such as an act.
Is it really right to judge Dr. Halsey as a criminal even if her action ensured the survival and victory of humanity? Although her action resulted in humanity's victory over the alien forces of the Covenant, we cannot deny that the reason for the existence of the Spartan program was to eradicate all insurgent forces in the human colonies, as well as the unethical practices that she did during the creation. She developed and completed the program, so in the end, even though the program it saved humanity, she needs to be arrested for her crimes.
Answering the second question, the circumstances lived within the Halo universe were the necessary ones to put aside morality and commit such an act. We agree that maybe the advances and also the technology were the ones who made this thing something that could possibly happen. But we need to say that this is fiction, because in reality this is something that will never happen, because there are laws, there's morality, and there's ethics. So we will think like in too much different alternatives instead of taking that action.